Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. Today's episode is brought to you by In the Reads. In the Reads provides beautiful, affordable artwork of the vibrant worlds found within your favorite books, TV, and films. From all wood bookmarks featuring illustrations and quotes from such fandoms as Star Wars, The Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Outlanders, and more, to fantasy and real-life maps drawn in the style of Tolkien. Go to inthereads.com and check out what is available. Like something? Use code TALES10 at checkout to get 10% off your order. A link will be in the show notes along with the code. And now, let's get to the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. It is the month of July. I cannot believe it that we are over halfway through the year already, and I am excited to have Emilee. You might know Emilee on Instagram as OurShieldMaiden. Emilee, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it is my absolute pleasure. I always love to find the first thing, the first picture, especially with people from Instagram, of like, how did I stumble across this person? And it was your Angelica Schuyler Hamilton dress back in like May of 2020. I was like, dang, that's so good. I gotta follow this person and see what else they do, because your work is wonderful. And it's been a pleasure watching like everything that you've been doing for the past 2 years.
Thank you so much. I really hadn't been cosplaying for that long before that picture, so you've been here a majority of the time, actually. So it's super fun.
Yeah, it is wonderful. You've got some great stuff that we're going to be talking about when we get to cosplay. But I'm so excited because you have 3 fandoms that we're going to be talking about, and 2 of them I think I have never been talked about on the podcast before, which new ground, love it. The first one that we're going to talk about is Our Flag Means Death. And I have to say, this show kind of like came out of nowhere and surprised, I think, like everybody. Everyone was like, what the heck is this show? It's so wonderful.
Yeah. It's really funny because HBO Max actually reached out to me a month or 2 before this was released. And they were like, hey, would you want to do an unboxing for this show? And they wanted to know if they could send me some stuff. And I hadn't heard anything about the show at all. And they sent me a trailer and stuff, and I watched it, and I was like, oh, pirates. Oh, it's funny. But even the trailer was very high level. It didn't really show a lot about what makes the show so endearing. It just looked like some funny pirate show. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm down with pirates. And so I had them send me the box, and I thought that this box was going to be like, I don't know, like a sword or something piratey, like stereotypically piratey. And what ended up being in the box was like a tea set and a candle and a blanket, which actually I have with me right now, because it's like this very nice wool blanket, and there was like bubble bath stuff, and like I was so confused because of course I got, they gave me a code to watch the first episode, but I hadn't actually watched it yet when I was opening the box, so I was just like so confused why I was opening bubble bath stuff for a pirate show. And then when I actually watched through, of course, I was like, oh, this makes more sense now. But yeah, it's just such a funny combination. It's just so quirky, and I love it.
That is awesome that HBO reached out to you and was like, hey, you want a box of stuff? That's so cool, like to do an unboxing of.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know how they found. I mean, I don't know how brands find me half the time, because I am on multiple platforms. So I just get emails and I'll be like, hi. But I never really know where it originates from with that one. Even I don't know how they determined that I was the go-to person for that, but I'm really happy they did, because I don't even know if I would have known about the show otherwise. I don't know that obviously now I think there's more fandom involvement. Strangely, it's like a couple months after the fact, because it was a really slow burn. Like, I don't think anyone really knew it was out, and it kind of was word of mouth, so it took a while to build that fan base.
Oh yeah, like I kind of reside on Twitter for the most part as far as like social media goes, and I'd keep seeing like everyone, you need to go watch Our Flag Means Death. Everyone, you've got to go watch it. You got to go watch it. And like I love pirate stuff. Like I feel like the pirate genre has kind of just been like disappointing that there's not more. I mean, we had Black Sails and we had like the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, but that's really been it for the most part. Yeah. And it's like, it needs to come back. It needs to come back. And then this wonderful show just like out of nowhere, and it's captured like, and I hate to say like the hearts and minds of the people I follow, and like there's such a demand now. I mean, we're recording in May, and there's still the demand of HBO. Why haven't you announced, a renewal for next season?
Yeah, because honestly, with the way, I mean, no spoilers, of course, but with the way that it left off in the first season, if we don't get a second season, I'm going to be really mad. Just because of all the build-up and anticipation that happened in the first season. So, yeah, I'm really hoping that it gets future seasons. Obviously, one more would be great, but, the more the merrier, I think, with something like this. But it was just such an enjoyable watch, and I really just had no idea where it was going the entire time that I was watching it. And then, but it was an enjoyable ride, and it does really remind me, actually, sorry, that was an incomplete thought, but it does really remind me, I was saying earlier about how I was kind of like first generation Tumblr, and so that's where I kind of, I think, learned about fandoms and learned that, we can all, be in this space together, creating weird memes and weird collections of things. And I really feel like this show captures the spirit of Tumblr in a weird way, because it just really, I mean, it's kind of like something it's like fan fiction, that you would read. But I love that. I love that it really does feel like it's like made by a fan for fans. And I think that's why people really connect with it.
I love that analogy, and I'm gonna have to just when I'm editing, I'm gonna have to like write this down because it's just so perfect. It is wonderful. When you started watching it, what like. Because I remember when I watched the first episode, like I wasn't hooked immediately.
Yeah, neither was I.
It took me like another episode or two. What was the hook for you? What was it that made you go like, okay, I'm all in for this show now?
Oh wow. I think Blackbeard, honestly, we don't see that character really at the beginning of the series, but I knew the character was coming because other people were saying it. So I watched the first couple of episodes, and I just really didn't connect, like you were saying, to the show. And then I ended up not watching it for a couple of weeks, and I think in those couple of weeks more people started watching it all the way through, and then I went back and I was like, okay, we gotta push forward. And then when more characters were introduced and a little bit more of a plotline. But I agree, it was really the first 2 episodes, maybe even 3 episodes, I was kind of still like, what's going on? Because like I said, I really don't feel like I had a strong grasp on what was happening the entire season. But it was just pleasant and lovely, and just, you never really knew what was coming next. So it's definitely one of my favorite fandoms right now. I retweet a lot of this, a lot of the art. I love that it's just inspired artists and writers, and like that's what I mean with like this spirit of like the original Tumblr. It's like it's inspiring so many people to create art off of it, and I really love that. I love when art kind of inspires more art to be created.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like, especially like, the on the fan art side of things, costuming, people writing. Like, it goes to show that you know you could create something like totally off the wall, and it could become a show like this,
Hmm.
and it's wonderful. And I think you were talking about like when you got hooked. Like, I'm looking at the Wikipedia to remind me of the episodes, and it was the third episode. Finally, like Blackbeard shows up at the end, but like Spanish Jackie's there, in the pub, and Jim. Like Jim is one of those characters that I just really enjoy them,
Hmm.
and their character. And I won't say more because I don't want to spoil it for people that are watching.
Sure.
But like I'm pretty sure like for me Jim is my favorite, but I love the whole ensemble cast because they all have this like weird quirk about them that
Hmm.
you're like, you I don't really like you, but I do like you. And it's just nice it's nice to have like this weird wholesome group of like misfit pirates.
Yeah, it almost in a way feels like the fandom is represented in the pirates because it's like I think that's why people connect with it so well is because it feels like we are like I think we all can kind of identify with with a cast member if not multiple cast members, and then it kind of reflects kind of that, a little bit awkward, a little bit quirky, a little bit weird, but that's okay. We're all together, and I love that dynamic because we really haven't seen anything like that before, especially with the pirate genre. I mean, Black Sails has a little bit of like queer representation, but it's not everything is just very quirky in the show, and it has kind of this indie feel that I don't really feel like has been done before, and I really love that.
It's such an incredible show, and it's something where if you're listening to us talking about it and you haven't seen it, I know it's on HBO Max. I know, and another streaming service. Got there's so many that
So
it's
many.
just too many at this point. Like cable is cheaper, but then you still get like not all the shows because now there's like exclusives like Our Flag Means Death on HBO Max, but it's well worth it. Like for me to say like, hey, plunk down like the $8 to get these episodes of shows, like these 10 episodes. These 10 episodes are worth the money that you're going to pay for a month of HBO Max, bare minimum.
And it's quick. I think the episodes are shorter, aren't they? If I remember, it's been a couple months since I watched so many things. I feel like were they 20-minute episodes? I
I
think they
think
were the shorter
I
ones.
think they're like 30, like 28, 30, in
Yeah.
that rate because they're not hour long.
Mm-mm. So it goes by fast.
Yeah, it goes by
Too
incredibly
fast.
fast, and what makes it so great, and I love shows that do this, is shows that are that length of time, but that can make wonderful character development happen in
Hmm.
that time for that many characters.
Yeah. No, it's really well thought out and really well. It's like a concentrated. You're getting a little bit more more. What's the phrase? More punch uh, per episode, I think, because they aren't as drawn out.
Hmm.
So it's super fun. I'm excited to see the potential. I know I've seen on TikTok and on Instagram cosplays, but I think it'd be really fun to see like a group cosplay type thing at a convention or something like that. So I'm waiting for that in the future, or like I don't know, some kind of meetup would be really fun for this fandom.
I'd love to see a meetup at like a Ren fair or something where it's just like everyone just
Oh
goes
yeah,
together.
yeah, that's a great idea. Might have to steal that idea, get some people together. I didn't even think about that, but a Ren fair would be perfect, of course.
Of course, I know here in Florida we have like pirate style Ren fairs, so it's like Ren fairs but with like piratey themes. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for them to be like, okay, have at it, yo.
Yeah. No, I'm here for it. for sure. That'd be really fun. I know we have a pirate weekend at the bigger Ren Fair here.
Yes, let's get Our Flag Means Death. And I have to say, it took me a while, like, because I haven't finished the show yet, but I love the flags. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna say more than that, but there's one scene where like the British receive a flag, and I was in tears laughing over the flag that they received.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, there's so many good moments, and I think you can just really tell that it's like a show that's made with love, and I appreciate that. Again, it does feel like it's been made by fans for fans, and I think that's why people are buzzing about it, and getting so inspired.
Absolutely. Now on I don't know if it's the flip side. Maybe it's the other side of a same coin. So we're going to move from Our Flag Means Death to another show, which my wife has seen. I haven't watched it yet, but Bridgerton is also making like huge waves and in like the fandom circles, but also just for I guess I don't want to say like regular people, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are watching Bridgerton. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
how did you get into Bridgerton? Like, what was the initial draw for you?
Um, I watched. I think it came out in December of the first season of 2020. Wait, 2020. Yeah, December of 2020. Does that sound right? I don't know. But whenever it came out, it was right around Christmas, and I just wanted something nice to watch. But I honestly did not have high hopes for it at all. I sat down on the couch and I remember being like, okay, I'm going to make sure I have a project to work on because I'm probably not going to really watch this. I'm probably going to, it'll just be playing in the background, which is what I do with a lot of things because I work better with something on in the background while I'm sewing or creating or whatever. So I really did not anticipate liking it at all. But I had seen, I think, maybe a trailer or something from it, and really, I'll try out any period drama. That's a genre that I absolutely love, and so it wasn't hard to get me, hooked that way. But then, as the characters started to be shown on screen, I was like, wow, look at that! There's an ethnically diverse character. I was like, wow, there's one. Oh, there's two. There's three. There's four. Like, it was wild to me because I've been really involved in Regency and period drama. I don't know if fandom is the right word for that, but I guess fandoms since I was 11 or 12 years old when I first watched Pride and Prejudice, and I just was immediately hooked. I've always been interested in that. And so really it's been decades since that initial draw to really see people of color represented in a Regency setting in a capacity that's not referential to slavery or to some kind of dark theme. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciated that. I know I've written about it a lot on my social media, so bear with me if you're on social media and you're like, you already talked about this. But I think it is really important, and for myself as someone who's African American and a woman of color, being able to see that representation that's non-trauma based in that world and in that setting was just really refreshing. And I've seen other TikTokers talk about it as well, where it feels safe. It feels like the Bridgerton universe feels safe for people of color because it acknowledges that it's not set in the quote unquote real world. That's the basis of it. It's kind of this alternate reality. And they openly talk about that. It's not supposed to be in the reality that we live in with the history that we live in.
Right.
And I really loved that because it's tied to reality, but it's not set in the same universe, and as such, I think it's kind of gives us escapism to people of color who are interested in this genre, but unfortunately, just because of how history is, they don't get that representation in things that are strictly based off of the history of the world. So I really love it. I think it's really refreshing. It's really funny. It's I think it is also really quirky. Parts of it. It's well written. It's well acted. And of course, as somebody who's into cosplay, the costumes are just gorgeous. And so that's a really big draw for me as well.
Now, out of curiosity, because you mentioned being into like the Regency era and Regency period, going back to like Pride and Prejudice at the age of 11, what was it? What was that thing that made you interested in like this particular like period or these period pieces?
Yeah, I like to joke that I went through a historical period every 3 years of my childhood growing up. I would just get very obsessed. I have ADHD, and so I get hyper fixated on things. And every 2 or 3 years growing up, I'd kind of switch and all of a sudden be super obsessed with something. So when I was 10, I was super obsessed with colonial America. And when I was I think maybe 12 or 13, I was very obsessed with the mid to late 19th century and the Civil War era and all of that history. And then I was really obsessed, with Regency in between there at some point. But that kind of, I guess, they all kind of muddied into the next, but I would just kind of really focus on that. And I had a whole Tudor English period that I was really obsessed with as well, which is really great because now as a costumer, I have that base knowledge because I was really obsessed with these things for when I'm creating costumes. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with history, but I have always loved it. And I think for the Regency period specifically, I think there's a lot of structure and a lot of rules to that time period. And strangely, I am really drawn to that, to that idea of like, these are the formalities. This is how things are done. Very polite, very formal. I don't know. I think it's kind of beautiful in, obviously that time period had a lot of problems as well, but in the formalities, it's kind of beautiful with these expectations because we don't really have that anymore. We don't really have like, you have to wear this thing, and if you don't follow these rules exactly, you're going to be completely, I don't know, ostracized from your family in the same way. Of course, it shifts nowadays to other aspects. There are other things, but back then it was something as little as, you wore the wrong type of dress. Now nobody will ever speak to you again. Obviously now we have other issues that we're still fighting for equality on. But I don't know. I always thought that there was kind of some beauty in that, the structure and obviously the romance of that time period as well, which I think a lot of people are just now being opened up to, the whole delayed gratification type thing, because that is not the world we live in right now at all. And so it's a stark contrast from reality, and I think that in itself is a type of fantasy. So I am definitely a fantasy lover, and so I think that's part of the draw of it also.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I've watched shows, I guess I don't know if they would be like adjacent to like Regency, or like I've watched period shows like Poldark and
it's a good one.
Oh gosh, what's the other one? Outlander, like, so
Mm-hmm.
it's got like some of it, but then there's time travel and all that goes into that one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely interesting to see the amount of people that have gotten into like Bridgerton, because like I looked it up and season 2 was like the most watched English language TV show on Netflix
I know.
since it debuted in March. Like
It's so
it's
wild.
been out for like 2 months, and like 600 plus million hours have been watched of it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's mind blowing. It's like I can't imagine this many people watching the show, but they are, and they love it.
Yeah, and I think Shonda Rhimes does a really great job, like I said, of creating that safe space for people of color. And I think that's the difference between this and any other period drama that has really been produced up until this point. I think that is a large number of people watching it. It's the first time they're seeing people like that look like them on screen being able to be royalty or nobility and being able to be in these beautiful dresses which is just wild when all you've grown up really seeing, and this is speaking for myself, of course, I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, with my my heritage, what I see on screen is normally slaves or enslaved people and runaways and trauma and all these things that Hollywood has banked on for so many years, as this is the African American story. This is what you will watch and what you will see, and to a certain extent, of course, those stories are important, but they're exhausting also to see, as that's the only representation we see in a historical capacity for people that look like me. So to see somebody, for instance, in Bridgerton, the queen is a Black woman, and that it's not questioned. It's not, there's no drama around it at all. That is who is queen, and there's no further dialogue. And not only is she the queen in that world, in that universe, but she's also in an interracial relationship, which is also huge, because as I often joke, I don't know if it's considered a joke, but me and my friends talk about a lot how interracial relationships in TV shows very often are just plot devices. And it's so seldom that they survive. There's always one person that dies in those relationships, and I don't know why that is. But it's like you can't exist as an interracial relationship, which I think now filmmakers are starting to realize, especially with younger generations growing up, like that doesn't appeal with how many people are in interracial relationships. That doesn't appeal anymore. We don't want to see it. We want to see ourselves represented on screen. And I think Shonda Rhimes does a really great job with interpreting the original books in a way that gives voice to people of color. And I just really love that, because the original books are not actually written in that way. So it is an interpretation of the books, which I also think is really interesting. I would love to sit down and do a podcast with her to ask her why and how she chose that specific book series too, because I'd never heard of the books before this Netflix series. So I think that's in itself a really interesting conversation.
Well, if you're listening, Shonda Rhimes, which I know you are,
yeah,
contact Emilee. The links will be in the show notes, so you can reach out to her, and Emilee will set it up for you and knock it out of the park for recording a great podcast episode.
Yes, please.
Now, before we switch off of Bridgerton, I know that there's a huge cast of characters, a wonderfully diverse cast of characters. Is there, like, do you have a favorite? Do you have someone that you're like, yeah, I love you. You're like the best character, and I hope you get everything you want?
It's hard. I think it's a tie for me. In human nature, the people that I like the most are the people that I see myself in the most. And there's two characters. Eloise is one, and she's very quirky and anti-rules, anti the expected. And she just challenges everything that is seen as expected of her, and I really love her character. She's also kind of a little bit naive, and I love that too, because I think strength in women, specifically characters, is a lot of the time tied to this worldliness, and for her, she's a really strong female character who gets things wrong and makes mistakes and fumbles things, but she's always getting back up and trying again, and I really love that about her character. And then in season 2, we got introduced to Kate, who is the main, I guess, love interest for this season, female love interest, and I really love her character. I think that she approaches the world in a way that is very similar to how I've seen myself approach the world, especially being she's got that oldest daughter. I don't want to say complex. I guess that's the thing. But there's a lot of tropes, I guess, about, you know, the oldest daughter in families, specifically in, you know, first generation families and different things like that. And I feel like she really embodies a selflessness and an observance of rules. So really, they're on the opposite spectrums. I was going to say, because she's very rule based, and it, you know, not to get into astrology, but that really makes a lot of sense actually for me. Those would be my two favorites. But I think she's a really beautiful character, and I love the casting direction or decision to make her the main love interest, because it's very seldom that we see dark-skinned brown women being a love interest of the main character in a non-trauma based way. And I think that was so important and so empowering for so many women, which I think is one of the huge draws of this season, even more so than the first season, was seeing a woman who looked like her being presented as, you know, the desirable character that is in the end ends up with the guy. You know, it's just really seldom that we as viewers get to see that. So I think there's a lot of reasons why it's popular, but I think representation is probably one of the biggest ones.
Absolutely. And I know Bridgerton's coming back for like at least two more seasons, because I already heard, you know, that's taken care of. So we're going to have even more Bridgerton excitement.
Yay. I hope that every season just keeps getting better, because I didn't know how they were going to get better from season 1. And somehow season 2, my jaw was literally on the floor at the end of the season. I was like yelling at the TV. So it was great.
Well, what was funny is I saw an ad, is something weird on Facebook about like this streaming service that takes shows and cuts out all like not romance, but like the sex and like the bad language and certain things. And they were like, oh yeah, we have Bridgerton season 2 available. And people are like, how do you have that? Now, speaking as someone that hasn't seen it, I'm thinking to myself, dang, do they have that much? And somebody was like, the person was commenting, it's like, oh yeah, there's still enough Bridgerton that you can watch it.
Yeah, I mean, season 2 was a lot less spicy than season 1. I don't know how they would have season 1 without that, but with season 2, there's a lot more anticipation. It really isn't till the end of the season that anything like that would happen. I don't think that's a spoiler, but it's just the way of period dramas. There's a lot of there's that build up and anticipation before anything happens. That I guess you could probably still get through. Definitely for language. There's no language, really, I don't think, that I can remember that would need to be bleeped out or whatever. But, I mean, Bridgerton is spicier than most period dramas. I think that's another appeal for the modern... I mean, I'm not going to say only women watch it, of course, but I think that is a draw for the modern woman, is that as opposed to previous period dramas that have been very, kiss on hand. It's a lot spicier. So there's that going for it too.
Gotcha. continuing our discussion on Regency romance and period dramas, another thing that you're interested in is wait a minute, not a Regency romance or period drama. We're going to be talking about Halo.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was hoping you would just keep going with that, but then that would be the big reveal. Speaking of very similar things, Halo. Yeah, totally the same. I mean, very similar to Bridgerton. They wear gorgeous gowns. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Halo is a sci-fi show that I'm really into right now. Obviously, it goes beyond the show and is a video game franchise, but I think the show has been really fun to watch as it comes out. It's not. I don't think it's complete yet. I think maybe 1 or 2 episodes behind, but I don't think the first season is completely out yet. But it's been really fun to watch as just somebody who has grown up around that universe and has always had something like that in my home. I didn't know, again, there's so many shows coming out that it's hard. I'm like, I didn't even know this show was coming out, except my brother, who has been a longtime Halo addict, honestly. He plays like every single day. He's played since the first one came out. So he's been there since day one. He said that it was coming out, and he wanted me to watch it because he didn't, in a way, trust himself to watch it because he's such a fan. You know, it's like when you love something so much, you don't want to see a representation of it that's disappointing. And so he didn't know if he wanted to watch it. There was a lot of whispers on the wind about it not being a good show and not using the music or the same themes as the game. I'm happy to say that's not true. I don't know who started those rumors, but I've just really been enjoying watching it.
That was another show again, and you hit the nail on the head with it almost feels like there's just so much stuff coming out that either I'm not keeping track of it, it's not being talked about in like the circles that I kind of like frequent, because when they said that, oh, there's a Halo TV series coming out, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, where did this come from?
Yeah. No, it's wild. This keeps happening. I just found another show that I won't get into, but another show called C on Apple TV that I've been really loving, and I'm like, why did no one ever tell me? Why am I not seeing this on plastered across my Twitter and my Instagram? But like you said, there's just so much out there. It's pretty wild.
It is. It's almost as if, like, because again, I don't think I saw anything for it until I loaded up Paramount Plus at one point. I was like, oh, there's a Halo TV series. It's like there's no marketing for some of these shows where it's just, well, here's the show. Hopefully somebody watches it and it catches on, like like Our Flag or like Bridgerton, or like even going back to shows like Stranger Things on Netflix. Like I had to be told about that to watch that, and it's like these shows, if they don't get like that word of mouth, there's no advertising. You're not seeing it on like pop-up ads or like, hey, check this out. And I wouldn't know about like half the shows unless other people told me about them.
Yeah, I think I also have really weird marketing. I've noticed this recently on TikTok and on Instagram. The things that do get marketed to me are things that no one else that I know is getting marketed to. So I don't know what I'm clicking or what, the Facebook gods are tracking as my phone is microphone. I don't know what it is, but even the movies, we recently saw what's it called? The Northman?
Yeah.
Yeah, we recently saw that, and even The Green Knight, which is the same director, I believe. Both of those were heavily marketed to me. I can't go on Instagram without seeing the ads. And nobody else I know even knew they came out. They had never seen any trailers for them. So just little things like that, I'm like, well, Instagram has me figured out, but I guess I'm just on a different wavelength. I don't know where I am. I'm like often is my own little corner being marketed to. But yeah, it's really interesting. And also with Paramount Plus, it's, I think, an up and coming streaming service. And so maybe they don't even have that marketing budget on it, to be honest. Because Amazon Prime has really been pushing a lot of marketing for shows that, I mean, not to be mean, but they haven't really been great. So I see a lot of Amazon Prime, which makes sense because Amazon, rules the world, and so they have money to do really whatever they want. But then smaller streaming services that fund something like Halo might not have as much funds that can go to the marketing aspect of it. But Halo is really high production. I want everyone to know that, because a lot of shows recently that have been really highly recommended to me have been really low production value. And it's just because they're being pushed out marketing-wise that more people know about them. But they're not actually at a really high level of, what you're watching doesn't feel like it's a high production value. The CGI is not high production value, etc. But with this, there's no marketing. But then I watched it, and I was like, this is really well produced. Like, the graphics are amazing, which, I mean, they should be because it's from a video game. But yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised, and the soundtrack is great too.
Given, like, I know you said, like, you've played Halo, I know, but you had mentioned, like, your brother is, like, all in, has been since the first one. How does it reflect as far as going from a video game to a TV show? Because I know in the past, except for like some recent movies, Sonic, we've not ever, like, it has not been a good transition from video game to TV or movie. So how did Halo do?
I think storyline, it doesn't really line up in the same way, but I think that they're true to the characters and the characters' identities. I really love how they portrayed Cortana. That was really important, really, to me, and I think they did a really good job of that. Master Chief is really well cast. I think actually the casting is really well done. They've added in characters that aren't part of the game, of course, because there needs to be a narrative that's a little bit stronger than, or not stronger, but more relatable to people just sitting there watching versus playing and shooting things and killing aliens. I think they did a good job of kind of weaving in that narrative. And I know that not everyone is going to agree with me on this one. Also, I think there's a lot of people that probably really don't like the series, but I think that they did a really great job, given that it is such a iconic gaming series, of taking it and making it into something that's high production value, really enjoyable to watch. This show also, I will say, is a slow burn, similar to Our Flag, where I really liked the first episode. The second episode was a little bit slow. Even the third one, I think, was a little slow. And then the fourth one was just, like, wild. Like, just, like, my brother was telling me, because, of course, he watched it now that I was, like, hyping it up. He told me, he's, like, getting chills as he's watching it. And I knew he would, because as I was watching it, I was just thinking, like, he would love this, because it has more of the video game feel. Like, you feel like you're, like, on this planet having, this battle, which I don't think is really a spoiler, but I mean, obviously battles will happen. It's Halo. Like, I think that, yeah, by like I can't remember if it's the third or the fourth episode, but it just gets really good all of a sudden. So there's, again, a slow burn, but I think a payoff in the end. So I think it's definitely worth watching. They did keep in a lot of the soundtrack elements, for those that are a fan of that. But yeah, we've always been a Halo family. I mean, I used to work at Xbox, and a large reason for me working there was just because, we were always an Xbox family, and that was just the way that I was always raised, sitting on the couch watching my brother, or whenever he needed somebody to, like, essentially be fodder as he was playing. He's like, here, you can touch one of the sacred remotes while I play. So that there was a second person playing. It was, but those are my memories growing up. And so I went and worked at Microsoft, and, you know, all of the Halo stuff is everywhere. And that was for, you know, my life for a year and a half, doing that. And so it's a big part of who I am and how I grew up. And I think it's really fun to see it come to the screen as a series.
That's really cool. That's awesome that you're able to like go from like the couch and being fodder for your brother to like working at Microsoft and being in the mix and everything. That's awesome. Yeah.
I know. I feel like so much of my career path has been influenced by my brother's gaming habits. It's pretty funny. But you know, whatever gets you there.
Exactly. You know, it's just your the influence of your brother and what he did set you on that path, and you know, you just ride it out and see where it goes.
Older brothers are great. Everyone should have one.
All right, Emilee. Well, we've covered some great shows, but now we're going to talk about what you do, and obviously how I stumbled across you, which is through cosplay on your Instagram. You also you know, have a TikTok and website, and you're on Twitter, all under like OurShieldMaiden. How did you first get started in cosplay?
I think I definitely seen conventions happen growing up because I'm from Seattle, and so I'd always seen people kind of running around in costumes. But I didn't really get involved until probably about 6 or 7 years ago when I moved out of the country. I actually moved to France, and while I was there, I, you know, just had a really hard time making friends, to be perfectly honest. And I was like, I saw this poster that was for an anime convention, and I thought, you know what? There's somewhere I can go that I know that I'm going to find people that I vibe with, regardless of language barriers or anything else. And the first one I went to, you know, I just hung out. I had such an amazing time. I saw people walking around in cosplay, and it was so fun because it didn't matter what language people spoke. You know, we all have the recognition of iconic characters, and I kind of had this moment where I was like, I really want, in the same way that I was excited to see people dressed as those characters, I was like, I want to be the person that people get excited about so that I can make friends when people come up to me and talk to me and different things like that. And so for the next convention, also conventions are very cheap or they were when I lived there in Paris. It was like $10, or it was like $10 or $20 for like a weekend.
Wow. And
so that was a big thing also, because if I wanted to go to a convention here as like, you know, a broke college student, you know, $100 later, it's just not the same as like $10 for a day or something like that. And I think that also was an incentive to go to those spaces in the first place. But I went to my second one, and I dressed up as a Doctor Who character, and I put a lot of thought into it. I didn't make the cosplay. I bought the exact dress that the character had been wearing on the show, made a little notebook and things like that, and it just worked out really well. People got really excited seeing me dressed up as the character, and I loved the feeling, and I loved being in that environment. And so I kind of made a mental pact with myself that said, you know, when I get back to the US, when I have a job where I have more disposable income, I'm going to really focus on this. And I did very lightly. I did like one cosplay per year after I got back until 2018. So for 3 years, you know, I just barely put my toe in the water. Like, well, I'll do one cosplay, and I would go to one convention that was a smaller convention called Geek Girl Con that we have here. And I was totally alone. I didn't have any friends that went to conventions. I didn't know anyone at the conventions. I would just go and just walk around and just like hope to make friends, I guess. And I think that that's actually a really big key that a lot of people don't anticipate, because a lot of people think that how you get into cosplay or how you get into these communities is you have this massive group of friends that you know, and you all go to the con together, and you all like, you know, make cosplays together, and you have like that's just not how it started for me. And I know some people that is how it starts for them, but I think it's important to point out, like, I went to conventions completely by myself for 3 years before I met people that I am now friends with to this day. But it took a while, and I was like, I had to put myself out there. And it really wasn't until I competed at Geek Girl Con in 2018 that I was up on stage, and a photographer showed me a picture of me up on stage in this cosplay that I had created, and I was like, I looked so radiant and so happy, and I've always loved being up on stage. I'm a former theater kid, and I just love, I don't know why, I just love being up on stage. And so I just looked so in my element and so happy, and I just thought, like, you know what? And I won an award, and I was like, you know what? I'm good at this, and I love it. Like, I need to start pursuing it. I need to go for it. I need to stop tiptoeing, around it, and kind of, maybe I will, maybe I won't, and I just need to go for it. So it really was that 2018 or I guess 2019, it was like January of 2019 that I was like, okay, 2019 is going to be my year of really going hard. And I think I did like 50, it was a lot, too many cosplays that year. I think I did like 40 cosplays that year, and it was just absolutely wild. Every single weekend I was at a cosplay shoot. And let me tell you, that can cause burnout. But then I kind of I think the good thing about that is I started to figure out, what do I actually like? What kind of cosplayer do I actually want to be? Mm-hmm. Because I think that's a really big reason that people kind of, that holds people back from joining, is you're like, where do I even start? I could do any character in the world, like, but what kind of character, and like, what do I want to dress up as? And I think kind of banging out every single character that popped into my head kind of made me start to realize, oh, okay, well, I kind of like this direction. Okay, I really didn't like that direction. Okay, I like this. And I just experimented so much. And then, yeah, that's how I started. And I've kept competing, and then being on Instagram and meeting new people and making friends and going to conventions, and then the world shut down, and then and then I've been on Instagram and all the social medias hardcore, because on the flip side, the quarantine kind of forced me to step back and think, like, okay, what do I want from this community, and who do I want to invest my time in, and what characters do I really want to invest my time in, because I didn't have the ability to be so distracted by shoots every weekend and all of these different events and getting together with friends and different things like that. So I also will say that I use the word friends very loosely, because, again, it took me a really long time. I always want to emphasize this. It took a really long time for me to build up to the community that I have now. Mm-hmm. It was like, okay, I have one friend for like 3 years that I can go to a convention with. Okay, I have 2 friends. Okay, I have when I'm saying friends, I think it's kind of just people that I'm cosplaying with.
Right.
But it's different than, like, this is my best friend that I'm gonna go and spend hours with and hang out with and different things like that. So yeah,
I gotcha. Now you mentioned trying out the characters and working on different characters and you know, running through like the 40-ish characters that you did in a year. How do you decide now who you're going to cosplay? Like, is it more like you identify with the character? Is it more that you like the outfit that the character wears? Is it a combination of both? Like, where do you land on deciding who you're going to cosplay?
It's definitely an emotion-based decision. If I emotionally connect with a character, that's what I'll put my time into. I see lots of pretty. I mean, there's obviously so many pretty things to build or that I would love to wear, but if I am going to spend hundreds of hours with something, and I know a lot of other cosplayers will say this too, you really do have to have that commitment and connection to the character. Otherwise, you're probably going to end up hating your life and hating the character by the end of the cosplay. That being said, there are characters that I just like things about them, but I don't love them on the level that I would spend 500 hours making that outfit. So for those characters, you know, sometimes I'll do like a closet cosplay, or I'll buy something, or I'll borrow something in order to still cosplay the character. I did that with a lot of Disney princesses, because I just don't really have any interest in making a Disney princess cosplay. Mm-hmm. But I love Disney and I love princesses and I love running around in those outfits. So I bought the dresses and I took photos with them. And that was a really fun project I did in 2020. It was every month I cosplayed a different Disney princess. So there's different ways to cosplay.
Now, you know, I mentioned at the start, like your Angelica Schuyler was mm-hmm. the first thing that caught me. Now, I've gone through your Instagram while we've been talking, because I wanted to make sure that I hit on a few of the cosplays that people should check out when they inevitably stop listening to this podcast and go to your Instagram to check out some stuff. So let me just run through. Please bear with me, because I have a lot of stuff that I love of what you've done.
Sure.
I love your Rufio. I love your Rapunzel. Your Alexander Hamilton, especially like the poses that you do with as Alexander Hamilton. It's like it's got that like Hamilton arrogance just imbued in that photo. Like, there's so many good ones. It's like, oh my gosh, like I could just see that you know, that Hamilton-esque, like, just there it is. Allison from Umbrella Academy, Snow White as a vampire, that just is something totally different. I was like, I like that. That's great. Yeah. And then of course, and it's funny that I'm getting to talk to you now. You are the third Ashley out of the Recess group that I've had the privilege of having on my podcast.
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah. And that's awesome.
I love like those throwback, you know, to like 90s cartoon shows, because I loved watching them as a kid. And Recess was one of those where I just love whenever something pops up from that kind of like show.
Such a good show.
So if you're listening, you know, you can pause or stop the episode and go take a look at Emilee's Instagram. But one of the other things that you do, which is really cool, and I actually had mentioned your Instagram to somebody else, because they're getting into corset making, is that you do sew-alongs.
I do.
How did you decide or come up with like that concept of doing this like for like the greater community, essentially?
I think when I started cosplaying, corsets are something that I've kind of always been interested in, but I think whenever I mentioned it to someone, it was kind of like the impression was given like, oh, that's really complicated. You probably couldn't do it. You probably should try something else, or just buy one. Or on the flip side, if there was a class or something like that was offering the information, one of them that I looked up was $400 to learn how to make a corset. And it was, you know, I think it was a month and a half long class. You go every Saturday. which is great. I mean, if people want to pay that, that's great. But I could not afford that at the time, and I don't know that I would pay that anyway. But I couldn't afford it, and essentially that pay gate was preventing me from learning how to do this thing that I just really felt passionately about for no explained reason, really. I've just always loved the elegance of corsetry and the intricacy. And then it kind of, at the end of my 12 months of princessing in 2020, I wanted to do something for 2021 that's similar, where every month I was doing something, just because it helped with mental health and with getting through the pandemic and quarantine, to have that thing every month that I could look back on the last month and be like, oh, I did this. Like, oh, I wasn't just sitting on my couch every day while being quarantined. And so it helped a lot to have those goals per month. And for the first month, there was a Foundations Revealed, which is a historical costuming community, had a competition that I learned about, that was a historically based costumes were encouraged for that competition. We won't get into the specifics of how that competition turned out, but it really pushed me to try something new, because I love competing, and I wanted to present something really beautiful that I hadn't ever done before and really push myself. And so I decided last minute that I would, in addition to the cosplay that I made, do the undergarments, which I had never done before for something like that. And so I got a pattern, and I was extremely, I don't know why, but I was just really terrified to do it. I was really scared I was going to just, I wouldn't be able to do it. And I just really took myself slowly through it. I think it took about a month. And, just every day I would just work on it just an hour or so, or a couple hours or something, just really in bite-sized bits. And at the end of that time, I had this corset that was just, I still am to this day just really proud of. And the feeling was just, I don't know, it just felt so good to create something so beautiful. And I champion using recycled materials whenever possible, and being sustainable with cosplay. And so I had made it out of, some thrift store fabric that I found, and it just was a stunning piece. And I loved that I now owned something that was so glamorous and beautiful, because corsets are very expensive, and that's something a lot of people don't understand. If you buy a historically based corset, you can be paying $500 easily for that corset. And again, I'm not knocking that in any capacity. If somebody wants to pay $500, that's great. But unfortunately, that bars a lot of people from being able to take part in the cosplay and historical costuming communities, because if you can't pay $500, how are you going to get that structure or that look for your costume? And so after I made my first one, I kind of put out general feelers on Instagram saying like, hey, would anyone want to make it? That was my January one that I had made. I was like, well, I need to make another one for February. Would anyone want to make one with me the next time? And I thought maybe like 3 or 4 people would reply. And I had like easily, I don't even remember, I think it was like 150 people or something signed up for that first one. And I kind of was like, oh, I have to like be organized now. This is an actual thing that's happening. This is not just a couple friends talking about it. And so it really has been a learning process from there. We started out on Instagram. We've now grown into Discord, which is a lot better for the amount of people that we have. I think we have like 350 people in the Discord now.
Nice.
That are all able to share their wisdom or their knowledge or their questions when we're going through projects. And something that I'm really passionate also about is intergenerational knowledge. And that's so hard to get in today's world, because we're very segregated based off of age, I feel like. And a lot of people live alone. A lot of people are kind of just in their own bubbles. And so we don't have, in the past, historically, there's, church structures and things like that, which beyond a religious community is also a community of intergenerational human beings that are existing in the same space, and knowledge is being passed back and forth in those spaces. And I think that's something that's really missing from the world right now, and something that I've been really passionate about forever. I've always like hosted things at my house and different things like that, where I'm like, I there's something really powerful about people sharing knowledge in a space based off of experience, specifically women, but obviously not only women. But I think this community has ended up, obviously it's open to anyone, has ended up with a really large presence of women who are able to encourage each other and help each other. Some people have been sewing for 25 years that are in these groups, and some people are working on the first thing they've ever sewn, or they've just got very basic sewing skills, and they just want to grow and learn. And so it's just really, it's really happened kind of organically, honestly, which is crazy. It's been a lot of work, but now I'm kind of getting into the rhythm of, okay, well, here's how we can plan out the future. I have kind of I call it a round table. I have a round table of people that I really respect that also do costuming, that bring different perspectives. So when I'm choosing patterns, the patterns are not just patterns that I would like. They're inclusive patterns based off of body types, based off of skill levels. And so, I'll reach out to that. I think there's 5 or 6 of us, and be like, okay, here's the pattern I'm thinking of. Or here's the idea I'm thinking of. Does anyone know any patterns that might do well with this? And it's really fun. It's great. It's worked out really great. We've had some fumbles, actually. Like sometimes we work through a pattern and everyone's like, this was a really difficult pattern and I didn't finish it. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't either. But it's been every time, every month has been kind of a learning experience. And like I said, I love that it's a community that kind of created itself out of necessity, because we needed something in the cosplay and historical costuming communities that is free knowledge. And it really is, all I did was create a space where people could experience that. A lot of people are like, oh, you teach these classes, and I'm like, I really don't teach anything. I provide resources, YouTube video tutorials. I write a lot in the Discord, but there's a questions channel in Discord. Most of those questions are not answered by me. They're answered by other people who are also doing the projects. So it's really more so about facilitating a space and a community where people can interact that have these similar interests. And yeah, it's been super fun. It's really rewarding too, because at the end of it, you have a finished product that you can be really proud of, and you learn new skills, and you fail and you succeed, and it's great because you have other people there that can help you to that finish line, which again, I've experienced being really intimidated by specifically corsetry. Mm-hmm. And so having those that support system, I think, is really key to making something like that.
That is, it's so incredible to hear just how it went from, hey, let me put this out there. Maybe like 2 or 3 people will respond, and now you have like this Discord of 300 plus people, all working together and doing things, asking questions, and really like creating things. And again, like that's one of the things I always heard about was corsets. Like they're the worst. They are just terrible to make. It's like the thing that people dread the most. Mm-hmm. for costuming. And now it's just awesome to hear that you have facilitated like this space to help people make these historical pieces.
Yeah. No, it's been really rewarding. Even looking back on the last year, it's been, I think we just hit in April our 1 year anniversary of So Long's, it's either April or March. And so it's just been really, it's great because it's like, wow, look at all these projects we've done. And we don't only do corsets, but that is definitely a focus. And yeah, we'll have a little bit of a break. The last one that, I guess when this goes live, actually, we're going to have a little bit of a break until October because it's con season and I am a competitive cosplayer, so I need to focus on building my cosplays. But then we'll be back. I was going to say with a vengeance. We'll be back with a vengeance. October 2022. Yeah, but we'll have our last one will actually be in June, and then over the summer I'll be stepping away for a bit just to focus on my builds, and then I'll be back hosting in the fall.
Awesome. Now, last question is always the question I end with every cosplayer is everybody's got a list of cosplays they want to do, want to achieve. What's on your list? What would you love to get done cosplay wise?
Wouldn't that be nice if I had a list and I was that organized? It's always funny because one of my closest friends, who is also a cosplayer, she has an entire spreadsheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and she keeps all of her cosplays organized. I do not. I am very chaotic. I think I said this earlier also, I shoot a lot of my stuff same day that's on social media. I post it right after I make it. I'm very chaotic. So even with upcoming cosplays, I am doing a Versailles cosplay for sure. That one's probably my next build that I'm going to be doing because I already have all of the materials for that. That's one that got funded through my my coffee, which is, for those who don't know, just a way to support. You can send little $3 donations to help cosplayers finish a build, and this one's going to be pretty elaborate, so it helped me pay for some of the materials for that. The show Versailles is very, obviously, I mean, by the name even, is very opulent. And so that is one that I'm going to be working on. So an 18th century dress for one of the characters. I also have a build that I'm going to be doing for, from the Wes Anderson movie, the Grand Budapest Hotel. I'm going to be doing Zero from that. And hopefully shooting that next month. Or I know it's this month. So I have to make that still. So by the time that this goes out, I hopefully will already have those pictures out. So, go check them out on my Instagram. And then I also have, I really want to do a Moon Knight cosplay as well. That is my pipe dream cosplay right now because I don't have everything for it or anything like that. But I really hope to build that out in the future as well, from the Marvel show that's currently airing. And those are the three that I can say will be being worked on. I just really, if you saw my cosplay space, there's so many half-finished projects or projects that are in stage 1 of 10. I've told people before, it takes me about 2 years for a cosplay to actually go from, I want to cosplay this, to me making the cosplay. So there's about a 2-year turnover rate. Even with Angelica, which is funny you mentioned that, I bought that fabric in 2018, and then I cosplayed her. Those photos were first taken of her when I finished the cosplay in 2020. So there's about a 2-year turnover for each of my cosplays.
Well, I have to say, your work is incredible. Even with all the chaos, it works, and it's just so incredible to like get to see the stuff that you're doing, not only for yourself, but again for like the community as a whole. It's just wonderful. And if people are listening, and I know I've mentioned it a few times, but if people are listening and they want to find you, what are the best places for them to follow you or check out your work?
I definitely say I'm the most active on Instagram and TikTok right now. I do have a Twitter. I kind of pop in and out of that one. And I have a Facebook page, which I pop in and out of as well. But everything is OurShieldMaiden, so easy to find. And yeah, probably Instagram would be the best one.
Awesome. And I'll have the links to everything in the show notes, Facebook page, and website, so you can click on any of them and they'll take you straight to Emilee. Make sure to hit the follow, make sure to comment and like and save and share, because we all know how the algorithms work, or we don't know, but we do our best to like finagle them to make it so that way people find you. But Emilee, I want to say thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come and talk to me about some of the shows that you love and talk about cosplay. I had a wonderful time, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was super fun.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.